Today, we delve into the life of a military prodigy whose name echoes through history. Crowned as the Emperor of France at the age of 35, Napoleon Bonaparte's impact on the world stage is undeniable. Let's uncover the story of this fascinating figure.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
I am destined for greatness. But those in power will only see me as a sword.
I suggest you take the throne as a king.
Shall we vote?
Napoleon's story begins in Corsica, 1769. Born to Carlo Bonaparte and Letizia, amidst a turbulent period marked by the island's struggle for independence from France. His family, initially part of the resistance, soon aligned with French rule, a decision that shaped young Napoleon's future.
In the early 18th century, the island of Corsica was a part of the Republic of Genoa, until one day Corsica said, "Hey, we're declaring independence, and it's probably not worth your time to try and stop us." So Genoa said, "You're right, it isn't worth our time. Hey France, you want to buy this island?" And France said, "Sure thing." And thus, Corsica became France, just in time for Napoleon to be born French. Many Corsicans didn't appreciate their new conquerors, however, and from an early age, Napoleon developed some fairly anti-French sentiments. Napoleon's dad, however, quickly embraced his new French overlords, which created some tension between dad and son.
In France, Napoleon pursued military studies. Though he grappled with the language and strict discipline, his brilliance and resilience were evident. Despite being an outsider, his determination set him on a path to military excellence. As the French Revolution upheaved the nation, Napoleon's military career ascended rapidly. His exceptional skills and strategic mind rapidly elevated him through the army's ranks, setting the stage for his first major command. Napoleon's Italian campaign marked his debut as a formidable military commander. His victories reshaped Italy's political landscape, signaling his rising influence and the birth of a military legend.
In 1796, at the height of the French Revolutionary Wars, a young French general took charge of a ragged, demoralized army in northern Italy. It was his first command. Many expected him to fail. Instead, in just 1 month, he won his first brilliant campaign. With astonishing self-confidence, boldness and energy, he led his army to victory after victory, transforming the war in Europe, winning praise from a grateful republic, and forging a legend. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign, and the dawn of a new age.
French flagship Orient, July 1st, 1798. Napoleon Bonaparte stands in front of his troops. He reveals that within hours they will land in Egypt. Soon, he says, they will defeat the Mameluke sultans, then they will stay as an occupying force. The people amongst whom we're going to live are Muslims, he says, their first article of faith being this: there is but one God, and Muhammad is his prophet. Do not contradict them. He then reminds the army that their forerunners, the Roman legions, protected all religions. He insists that Egyptian Muslims be treated with the same respect the army has shown Christians and Jews, and that their rituals, mosques, and priests are not to be interfered with. And soldiers must accommodate Muslim ways, even though their treatment of women differs from Europe.
In 1798, Napoleon embarked on the Egyptian campaign, a significant military venture aiming to disrupt British trade routes with India. This move illustrated his understanding of global military strategy and his intention to weaken British influence. The campaign in Egypt was initially successful, marking a notable conquest for Napoleon. However, it eventually encountered major setbacks, particularly from the British Navy, which significantly undermined his efforts and strategy. Napoleon also forged an alliance with Iran through the Treaty of Finkenstein in 1807. This agreement promised Iran's military enhancement against Russia and Britain, but also to forge a path through Iran to India, targeting a vital British colony. Ultimately, Iran shifted alliances, siding with England and leaving Napoleon isolated in his grand strategy. Returning to a politically unstable France, Napoleon found the government in disarray. Seizing the moment, he led a coup, establishing a new government with himself at its helm. This bold move marked the beginning of his reign as the first consul of France.
In December 1804, in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French. Europe had never seen such a sudden and dramatic rise to power. A son of impoverished Corsican nobility to military dictator of France in little more than 10 years.
Napoleon's military prowess was epitomized in the Battle of Austerlitz, where he decisively defeated the Third Coalition. His conquest continued expanding French influence across Europe. Yet with each victory, the resistance against him grew stronger. The invasion of Russia marked a turning point. Despite initial victories, the harsh winter and fierce resistance led to catastrophic losses for Napoleon's army. This campaign began the unraveling of his empire.
The French invasion of Russia in 1812, also known as the Patriotic War in Russia and the Second Polish War in France, was an offensive campaign begun by French leader Napoleon Bonaparte against Russia, aiming to force the Russian Empire back into the continental blockade of the United Kingdom. This war was part of the Napoleonic Wars, a series of global major conflicts pitting the French Empire against an array of European states formed into various coalitions. The invasion, however, reduced the invading forces of France and its allies to a sliver of their original strength, and was believed to be the beginning of the end to Napoleon's ambitions of European dominance.
In 1812, Napoleon's Grand Army reached Moscow, only to find a desolate and burning city. The Russians, employing scorched earth tactics, had set Moscow ablaze, leaving nothing but ashes for the invading forces. Bereft of supplies and shelter, this strategic blow deeply demoralized Napoleon's troops. The retreat from Moscow was a nightmare for Napoleon's army. Faced with the onset of an unforgiving Russian winter, dwindling supplies, and constant harassment by Russian forces, the once mighty army crumbled. Thousands perished from cold, starvation, and skirmishes, marking the beginning of the end for Napoleon's dominance.
After 5 weeks, facing the onset of the cruel Russian winter, Napoleon led his army of only 100,000 survivors out of Moscow to the south, but was attacked at Maloyaroslavets, a small town located about 120 kilometers southwest of Moscow, by a replenished Russian army and was forced back to the road they took in. During their disastrous retreat, his army was reduced by the extreme Russian weather, starvation, and continual harassment from the aggressive and merciless Russian army led by Kutuzov. In November, they reached Smolensk, where they only found famines. The remaining 24,000 men then marched on to Borisov.
The disastrous Russian campaign was a catalyst for the coalition forces to rally against Napoleon. By 1814, as various European armies closed in on Paris, Napoleon faced the inevitable. He abdicated the throne and was exiled to the island of Elba, his empire crumbling, his dreams shattered.
He was exiled to Elba after his defeat at the Battle of Paris in 1814. The terms of his surrender?
You will be granted 2 million franc annual subsidy and sovereignty over the island of Elba with a guard of 400 men.
Napoleon's story didn't end there. In 1815. Napoleon staged a dramatic comeback, escaping from Elba and seizing power once again in what became known as the 100 Days. His return to France sparked a wave of support, but it was short-lived. The decisive Battle of Waterloo awaited him, where he faced a coalition of European powers determined to end his rule.
Europe, committed to restoring the old order, has declared war on Napoleon. They plan to invade France and restore the monarchy. The Russian and Austrian armies are approaching from the east. The Anglo-Dutch army under Wellington is headquartered in Brussels.
This crucial battle was the stage for two major strategic errors that ultimately led to his downfall. Firstly, Napoleon delayed the start of the battle, giving his opponents time to strengthen their positions and prepare for his assault. This hesitation cost him the element of surprise and the momentum that had often been crucial in his previous victories.
At Waterloo, Napoleon delays his attack, waiting for the ground to dry, which will make movement easier for his troops. But the lost hours will later prove costly. At 1:30 p.m., Napoleon sends in his infantry. The French columns are met by disciplined musket fire, and then charged by British heavy cavalry. The French attack disintegrates as Napoleon's men try to save themselves from the crushing hooves and flashing sabers.
I draw your attention to this video for Napoleon's military makeup.
On June 4th, Soult gave a detailed report to Napoleon of the locations of the infantry corps of Army du Nord and the time required to reach the staging areas for an invasion. First Corps at Maubeuge, 2-day march, leaving on the 11th. Second Corps to the right of Maubeuge on the Sambre, 1-day march, leaving on the 12th. Third Corps north of Philippeville, 2-day march, leaving on the 12th. Fourth Corps at Philippeville, 7 or 8-day march, leaving on the 6th. Sixth Corps, previously indicated to be at Avesnes, 5-day march, leaving on the 9th. Imperial Guard at Avesnes, staggered march, arriving on the 13th.
Secondly, his decision to divide his forces weakened his army's impact on the battlefield. Instead of a concentrated, powerful strike, his troops were spread too thin, making them vulnerable to the coordinated attacks of the Allied forces. These errors, combined with the determination and resourcefulness of his adversaries, culminated in a crushing defeat for Napoleon at Waterloo. This loss not only marked the end of his reign, but also heralded a new era in European history, where balance and collective governance became central themes. Napoleon spent his last years in exile on the remote island of St. Helena. Far from the grandeur of his earlier life, he reflected on his legacy, a legacy that continues to fascinate and divide opinions to this day. Let's transition now from the narrative to a deeper analysis, where we uncover 3 pivotal insights that Napoleon's life teaches us about ambition, adaptability, and charisma. Number 1. The double-edged sword of ambition. Napoleon's meteoric rise to power was fueled by a fire of ambition rarely seen in history. He was a visionary who transformed not just France, but the face of Europe. However, his story is a stark reminder of ambition's double edge. His relentless drive led to unprecedented conquests, but it also blinded him, pushing him towards decisions that would eventually lead to his fall. Number 2. Adaptability versus overconfidence. Napoleon was a master strategist known for his adaptability on the battlefield. He thrived in chaos, turning the tides of battle with his quick thinking. Even in the movie that was made this year, they mentioned his strategies, like this clip.
General, we are discovered.
Good.
Wait! Nice! It's a trap! Retreat!
I'm not built like other men.
But as we delve deeper, we see a shift. His overconfidence overshadowed his adaptability. The Russian invasion was a gamble that cost him dearly, illustrating the fine line between confidence and hubris. And lastly, the power and perils of charisma. Napoleon wasn't just a military genius, he was a charismatic leader. His charisma rallied armies and inspired fierce loyalty. Yet, charisma alone couldn't sustain his empire. When the tide turned against him, the limits of charisma were laid bare. It's a compelling lesson on how charisma, while powerful, needs to be underpinned by sustainable success and ethical decision-making. As we look back at Napoleon's journey, these insights resonate beyond his era, reminding us of timeless lessons in leadership, power, and the human condition. Napoleon's story is more than a tale from the past. It's a mirror reflecting lessons that resonate through time. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you found these insights enlightening, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest stories. Until next time, keep exploring and learning from the past to understand the present better.